Rising inventories have been rocking the retail space as companies continue to overestimate consumer spending power, but the excess goods may provide a new opportunity for companies like Overstock. Joining us now to discuss is Overstock CEO Jonathan Johnson. Jonathan, good to see you as always here. So when you survey the landscape and you start to see these inventories pile up in many retailers, does it scream like a recessionary environment to you?
Boy, there's no question it's a very tough retail environment right now. We actually think that's great for Overstock's business model. We're asset light. We don't own inventory, so we're not sitting on a bunch of inventory. It's yellowing. We are able to sell our inventory that we list on our site because of our smart value proposition. Customers are cutting back on discretionary spending, but when they spend, they want a smart value. They want to stretch those dollars, get the most they can for what they're willing to spend. That's exactly what Overstock offers.
Jonathan, Guggenheim out with a note this morning voicing some concern about the growth rates in your business against this consumer spending slowdown. How have they been looking in recent weeks?
Well, look, there's no question that the consumers hit pause on this discretionary spending, particularly in the home goods market. But we think it's a pause. It's not a stop. The good news about the American consumer is she always comes back. I do think people are worried about gas prices and inflation. Again, we think our business model where we have a good value proposition. We've got, product at any price point, always a deal. We think that when the consumer comes back, we'll be poised to be there. In the meantime, we remain focused on our mantra, sustainable, profitable market share growth. We think our balance sheet is strong. We're controlling the controllables so that we're profitable, doing our best to maintain and take market share in this tough environment.
And Jonathan, Brad here, what have you noticed in terms of the spend levels for those who are still buying on Overstock.com? Has that started to kind of trickle down or trickle lower, if you will, given some of the other high costs that they are navigating right now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Brad. In our first quarter print, we announced that we had the highest average order value that we've had in our history. People are still spending. They're just looking for value when they do so. So as we continue to complete our journey to be a home company providing dream homes for all, our AOV will go up because we're moving out of kind of lower price point goods, and the consumers are willing to spend if the value is there.
Certainly, and it comes back to finding valuable products. But I wonder, in this environment where retail companies and even a lot of the online e-commerce retail companies have had to look across their inventory and say, all right, we clearly have too much that we need to start to churn through now. Have you had to hit pause on some of the partnerships where you typically would be taking in that inventory from, or do you just continue to move forward, holding on to that for a time when the consumer does come back?
Well, we're always working to increase the breadth and depth of our SKUs, and we're having success doing that. You do mention one kind of difficulty for us, and that's when some of our competitors who own inventory choose to liquidate it and lose money. That makes the competition more stiff, and sometimes we have to remove product from our site for a time while others are liquidating. But we've been able to remain competitive and are working to maintain profitability and working to grow market share.
Jonathan, I've started to travel the malls a little bit more recently looking for a good deal, and I've been surprised by some of the discounting a lot of big retailers are offering right now. Has discounting crossed that line into irrational zone?
No, I think it's coming back to kind of a more normal place. You have to remember, a year ago, we were in a very different place where supply was underpacing demand. Today, it's probably the opposite. But I think that there are retailers that are discounting big. But I think most of us are looking at this the long run. Most of our partners have a long historic perspective, know that if they work to maintain price, that they'll sell through their inventory in due course. And so I don't think it's irrational yet, but there are certainly deals to be had, including deals to be had on Overstock.
John, I always love to get your sense on this crypto landscape here, considering the history that Overstock has had, one of the first retailer online to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment in this broader crypto winter that we're seeing right now. What most notably have you been keeping an eye on, and are you still holding at this point, even the small amount of Bitcoin that Overstock has in comparison to some of the other whales out there?
Yeah, we're still holding or hodling our Bitcoin. One thing I monitor is the amount of Bitcoin that's spent on Overstock each week. It's always been, less than 1%, a very small percent of our revenue. But during crypto winter, it's really dried up to where almost no one is spending Bitcoin or crypto to buy goods on Overstock. So I think people are, traders will trade in and out, but hodlers aren't spending like they were when Bitcoin was at a higher price.
If they stop spending in Bitcoin, is that something that Overstock thinks about sunsetting at that point?
No, it's an easy program for us to keep. We like it. It keeps our kind of toe in the water in this space. If it went to zero for a long period of time, sure, we might turn it off. But I don't see that in the future. I think Bitcoin's taken a pause. And as you know, more than cryptocurrency, we're really bullish on blockchain technology. We have a portfolio of companies. We have a venture capital firm managing. We think T0, Bit, GrainChain, these blockchain technology companies have a bright, bright future.